Hey guys. It's been a while. I've not been well the last 2 weeks, which is why I missed. And I think it's been 2 weeks. I don't know. Anyway, today we're talking about the Q slur, aka the word queer. So, I personally do identify as queer. I like the word because it isn't very specific, but it tells you everything you need to know. And also, it's just, I don't know, it's just, I guess it gives me a sense of community with people who, aren't necessarily, the same gender as me or the same sexuality as me, but we're still all grouped together. And if society is gonna group us together, then we might as well have a community and help each other, right? But it is a reclaimed slur, which means that it was a word that was previously only used as a slur, or basically a derogatory term towards queer people. And people decided to say, you know what, it's not a bad thing, hell yeah, I'm queer, and I'm proud of it, I'm fine the way that I am, and I'm worth being celebrated. And that's what, I think that's the ideology behind reclaiming slurs. And sometimes it's successful and sometimes it isn't. I think what makes it makes the word queer a unique case is that people don't use it as a derogatory term as much anymore as they used to. It used to be, very widely used, but I mean, maybe it's different in other places, but where I'm from, I never heard people use it in a bad way, but they would say gay in a bad way, and they would use the F word and the T word in a bad way. But I'm not sure I ever heard anyone call another person queer unless it's the way that they identified. Or yeah. So I do identify with the term, but it's important to remember that because it's a reclaimed slur, not everybody is comfortable with that term. And that's why, people, it's probably not a good idea to use terms like queer people to mean LGBTQ people, because there are people, I think it's fine to have it as part of the acronym, because that way, if someone identifies as say lesbian, but they don't like the word queer, they're still included in the acronym. Of course, the acronym leaves identities out, pansexual, the main part of the acronym is LGBT. So, pansexual isn't in there. What other? There are, very specific identities that are not included in there, which is why a plus is always useful. But the thing is, people use the Q at the end to sort of work like a plus. It's yeah, and all those other queer people, no matter what their sexuality is, which would be fine if it wasn't a reclaimed slur. So, I mean, I'm guilty of that. I say LGBTQ, or without adding a plus. Is it okay? Does adding a plus make it okay, or is it because no, if it's an acronym, it's really hard not to leave people out. If there was a word that meant the same thing as queer, but wasn't a reclaimed slur, it had never been a slur, and it mean the same thing, then that would be perfect, and we could just use that word. But as far as I know, there isn't a word in English for that. So we use the acronym, or there are a couple different acronyms other than LGBTQ. There's MOGAI, which I think is, I don't know what it is. I'll put what it stands for below. But there's that, and I think I've seen like one or two other ones, but I don't really remember them at the moment. So like, as far as an umbrella term that covers, everybody who isn't a cisgender heterosexual person, I use LGBTQ because that's like the most, because like the thing is, like, people haven't heard of MOGAI. So I use LGBTQ because I feel like that's the most inclusive one that people will know what I'm talking about. How do you feel about the word queer? Like, does it upset you to be called that? Do you identify as that? And what terms do you think we should use to refer to people who are under the queer umbrella without having to use the word queer, which could be upsetting to people? Let me know in the comments. Okay, bye.